So here we go. So what is it like to drive this 2009 Porsche 911 Carrera 2? Well, the first thing that you notice if you've been driving an ordinary car is it feels like a sports car, which is what you expect. You sit pretty low, everything falls nicely to hand. There's nothing particularly unconventional about any of the user interface. All the controls are pretty conventional. This one is a PDK, so essentially an automatic gearbox using a dual clutch transmission. Changes are pretty rapid. They also it kicks down like an automatic, but you've got what's that called? Paddles. They're more like switches on the steering wheel. They come in for a little bit of stick because they are both sides of the steering wheel. You can change up and you can change down. So rather than having change up one side, change down the other, which seems to be the way that a lot of these flappy paddle gear changes go these days, and this one has got you push the thing away from you to go up the box and pull it towards you to go down the box, and you've got controls both sides of the steering wheel. And to be honest, I've been driving this thing for well over 12 months, nearly 18 months now, and I don't really use the paddles much at all. I leave it in automatic mode and just use the built-in responsiveness of the box. It seems to have some kind of intelligence. I guess it's got a number of shift strategies that it can shift between based upon how you drive the car. So if you drive relatively gently, it changes up quite quickly and gets you up into 7th gear. It's its top gear to minimise your fuel consumption and maximise your economy, and obviously maximise the range. But when you drive it more spiritedly, shall we say, or more aggressively, the shift strategy changes, so it changes down sooner. It hangs onto gears in corners, for example. It won't change up if you go into a corner fairly hot, brake hard. It won't change up in the corner. It will hang onto your gear until you get out of the corner, and then you can kind of really unleash the power in it as you're coming out of the corner, and then it'll change up as you accelerate quickly. So the ride quality is for something that's really an out-and-out sports car, the ride quality is remarkably good. I've had a couple of other sports cars and sports and saloon cars in the past, and they don't ride as well as this does. Particularly the comparison with an M Sport suspended BMW 335 I had a few years ago. This thing is far more comfortable, far more compliant, and much less crashy than the BMW was. I think that's possibly down to the fact that it's got this adaptive suspension. Am I right? Thanks. I've got this adaptive suspension, and that softens the suspension a little bit at low speed. You can push a sport button that you'd use maybe if you're taking it on the track, and that firms the suspension up. But on British roads, or on most British roads, I think it's a mistake to even consider pressing that button because the roads are pretty bumpy, particularly around, I don't know, I think it's everywhere, but particularly around where we live, on the edge of the fens. I leave it in the automatic mode and I never touch it. See, you can see I'm actually, it sounds like I'm some kind of lazy guy. I don't touch I don't move the automatic gearbox out into manual, and I don't mess around with the suspension, and that's because the thing is just pretty well sorted the way it is. Why mess around with something that just works? I know folks that own these things that will, with the PDK box, with the auto box, and they will immediately put it into manual mode as soon as they get in it, but frankly life's too short for me to do that. I'd rather just toot along. When I want to go slowly, I go slowly and just toot along in automatic mode, and then when I want to go quick, accelerate, brake hard, and it just responds really well, probably quicker than I could respond. Someone said something about it's a bit like having Walter Royal changing gear for you. That's what they said with the early PDKs. And I don't know, I've never been in a car with Walter Royal, but I imagine that's probably what it's like. What else can I say about this car? Some day-to-day practicality. It is remarkably practical. It's got a good sized boot in the front. Obviously, the engine hangs out the back, so there's no boot in the back. It is a 2+2, and it's definitely a 2+2. You can never say it's a 4-seater. You can get two, say 10 or 11-year-olds in the back, but you wouldn't really want anybody above the height. I think they say 5'3" is the kind of maximum size of person that would want to go in the back. Having said that, if someone in the front passenger seat moves the seat forward, I think I could ride in the back of this for half an hour. I wouldn't really want to ride in the back of it for any longer than that. It's actually remarkably much more practical than you imagine. Also, bizarrely, it has got folding seats in the back, so the seats fold down, or the seat backs fold down, to give you a kind of a flat load area. And it's a bit strange because they don't fold flat down to the same level as the actual seat bottoms. They kind of fold halfway down, and they are for my usage it's brilliant, because we've got a dog and a dog box, and the dog box can just be fastened onto one of these folded down seats, just and use the seat belt to kind of keep it in place, and that works very nicely. I imagine probably it's a good place to put your golf clubs if you're a golfing type person. So yeah, pretty flexible and quite practical. And the other thing is, if you fold the seats down, there's a space underneath where you can still stash stuff, so you can put coats and squashy things underneath the folded down seat back, and those are accessible while you're in the front of the car, so that's quite good too. Other practicality aspects, it's not that thirsty. I think, all things considered, this is a 345 brake horsepower car, and it's got a 0 to 60, I think, of around 4.5 seconds, and it does about, on give and take driving, it does about 30 to the gallon. I just had a look at the computer, and it's doing 30 at the moment. If you go on a longish trip and you're spending a bit of time at the motorway, particularly on the motorways here where we've got lots of average speed checks here and there, the best I've seen is about 35.5 or something, which seems quite remarkable to me. And obviously, if you hammer it, then I think you could probably easily get into the low 20s. I think the lowest I've seen is about 26 or 27, which I think is still pretty remarkable for the kind of performance envelope the car's got. It's quite good from that point of view. I do find that it uses a little more oil than I would expect, but it's still within the kind of specification. So I reckon I get through about a litre of oil every, I guess it must be every couple of thousand miles. So like half a litre of oil every 1,000 miles, something like that. Which is quite a lot for a modern car. If you compare, like for example, my wife's got an old Saab, and that doesn't use a drop of oil between services. It's serviced every year, and usually it does about 5,000 miles between services, and it just doesn't use a drop. So it is kind of a little different from some modern cars. But equally, I've also heard that there seems to be some variability between different examples of the same car. So some of them use significantly less than that. So you pay your money and you take your choice. So it uses a little bit of oil. What else? The practicalities perspective. Noise-wise, I don't think it's particularly noisy, except for tyre noise, because it's got whacking great big tyres on it. It's got 295s on the back, and I think they're 235s on the front. Pretty low profile, 30 profile on the back, and 35 on the front, at least on the 19-inch wheels that I use during the summer. And it's, I think you get quite a lot of road noise. It is very dependent upon, road surface. You move from one road surface to another, and it can get significantly noisier or significantly less noisy, depending on the road surface. So it is a little noisier, I would say, than the average car. Other weird things: it's got a rear wiper, which is great when it's raining, and it is, or when it's snowing. Wouldn't be without it, but it's a bizarre thing. It's the only car that I've ever come across with a rear wiper that has no wash. So at the moment, as I'm driving at the moment, I think mistakenly, I've flicked the rear wiper and it's got all smeary on the back windscreen, and there's nothing I can do about it because there's no water I can get to clean the back window, because there's no rear wash for the rear wipe, which is a strange arrangement. And actually, a lot of folks don't like the rear wiper. There are people who even if they have the wiper fitted, will actually have it removed and have a bung put into the rear window where the wiper was. Honestly, I'm not sure I'm that bothered about that. I think aesthetically, as rear wipers goes, it looks fine. I think that it looks absolutely fine. Other things from a practicality point of view, it's all the things work the way you would expect them to work. It's the ventilation and stuff is what you'd expect from a relatively expensive car. Everything works nicely. It's got a pretty decent in-car entertainment system for. Bear in mind, this is a 2009 car, 2009 model year car, and this was, I think, the year that they upgraded the in-car entertainment system to what they refer to as PCM 3.0, which was a big improvement on the previous version. It's got reasonably good sat nav. It's not. I'm not sure whether it's hard disk based or flash memory based. It does have some internal storage, so it doesn't have any internal music storage, but it has got an iPod interface, and it interfaces quite nicely with the iPod. And I've got an old iPod plugged into it, and it works like a charm. It's a little weird now and again. It's kind of a little unpredictable because it does have this tendency to restart itself every now and again, which is a little bizarre. So sometimes the in-car entertainment screen will just go black and go off and then restart. Now, whether that's some weird fault with a connection or something in my car or not, or whether it's just it goes with the territory, I'm not really sure. But it's happened a few times on this. And it's got reasonably good sat nav. It's not as good as Google Maps. It's about what you'd expect from a 2009 model year car. It's not. I think if you've got the more modern versions of everything these days have got extraordinary mapping and navigation, and it's all connected. This does actually have some kind of connection capability because it does give you warnings about traffic ahead and so on and so forth. So it isn't bad, but it's nearly 10 years old, so it's clearly not up there with the current glass cockpit type sat navs that you see in things like Audis and even Volkswagens these days, and I imagine the latest Porsches. But what I do quite like about it is that although it has a touch screen, you're not dependent upon the touch screen. The touch screen is kind of secondary. You can pretty much do everything that you can do on the touch screen. You can do with buttons. You can navigate through lists using a rotary switch, and then you can make selections by clicking on the rotary switch. This car doesn't have the multifunction steering wheel. I think if you have the multi-function steering wheel as well, you can do all of that stuff from the steering wheel. You don't have to take your hand off the wheel to actually sort of scroll through navigation options, and scroll through your music list and so on. So it's probably better with a multifunction steering wheel. And in fact, if I'm honest, that was one potential thing that when I have the funds to do it, I might actually upgrade the steering wheel and get the multifunction wheel, because I think I find it quite useful, and you can get them second hand and they're not silly money and they don't cost a hell of a lot. heated, so I might invest in that. Yeah, what else can I say about this car? Well, it kind of gets under your skin a bit. You just have you become used to the performance and the way it feels and the way it handles, and I haven't really spoken much about the handling of the steering side, which of course is one of the main reasons of having one of these things. It handles like a proper sports car. You know, it goes through bend. You can put it through bend at very high speeds. The steering feedback you get from it is really good. The steering just feels. What I like about steering is that it's not kind of twitchy and overly sensitive. There are some cars you get where the steering is, it's a bit too darty. You sneeze and you can be in the ditch kind of thing. It's not quite like that, but it does give you there's a lot of tactility and feedback from the road coming through the steering. It also, because of the balance of the weight, ultimately I don't think because of the weight distribution it probably doesn't handle genuinely as well as for example a mid-engine Porsche. So I had a Boxster, admittedly a long time ago, but I think the Boxster handled better than this. But then there's a trade-off. You could get a Boxster or a Cayman, and the Boxster and the Cayman have got more luggage space because they've got the same size boot as the 911's got in the front, but they've also got a boot in the back. So in terms of pure sort of luggage room, they've got more space, but they have no rear seat at all. They're both strict two-seaters, which, believe it or not, is one of the reasons why I got a 911 rather than a Boxster or a Cayman, because I wanted the two additional almost seats, because basically to carry the dog around in. And it does give you that bit of extra flexibility, because when you jump in the car you can just chuck stuff in the back or whatever. And in a sense, the two seats do give you probably more luggage space, especially with the fold down rear squabs that I've mentioned. They probably give you more space than you get in the Boxster second boot. Certainly kind of more flexibility of what you can put in there. But going back to what I was originally saying, to talk about you don't buy a Boxster for practicality, you buy it for handling, and probably more so even with the Cayman. There's a peculiar, specific feeling to the balance of the car. You can tell it hasn't got the engine in the front because the steering feels a particular way, and it has the way it handles the road is a sort of slight bobbiness to it because of the lightness of the front end, which is sort of similar to the Boxster. I remember the Boxster had that a little bit, but it's more pronounced, I think, with the 911 because of course you do have that all the weight hanging out behind the back wheels, and that's a big lump of an engine behind there. I was quite surprised when I learned that people do, when they've got a wrecked 911 in the US, there is people who'll put an LS engine, which is the big V8 that you find in the front of Camaros and even Corvettes, and those engines are actually no heavier than the 911 engine, which I thought was a bit of a surprise, because those are things of 6.2 litres, and you always think of American iron as being big and heavy, but in reality those engines are now all alloy engines, and in many ways they're less complicated than the 911 engine is, because they've got more cylinders, but they don't have the double overhead cam valve gear that we've got in these. I think they're, believe it or not, I think they're still pushrod engines, which is pretty remarkable. Anyway, so I digress a little bit too much, I think, there. So what else can I say about this car? I think that's all I want to say for now, actually.